Hi, Tim here. Welcome to this video about composting. I'm going to run through how to get organic, peat-free, weed-free compost made with the hot green brown composting process. When we took on our half plot, we realised we're going to need quite a bit of compost to get good plants. So we did some research and looked at various methods. We settled on the hot green brown composting process as described and defined by Charles Dowding and May Bruce in their various books and videos. So what is hot green brown composting? Essentially, you are getting the bacterial process compost going, that generates heat, and you're then capturing that heat to increase the temperature of the heap, and provided you get it to 50 degrees centigrade, then it'll kill seeds and roots of plants, and it'll compost very quickly. So it's a really good, quick composting process. So how do you do it? Start point is your heap. You want the heap to be a reasonable size. If it's too small, you don't get the heat. And it's recognised that about a 1 metre cube is the minimum size for your heap. At the same time, you've got to fill your heap with material. We've just got a half plot here. So for us, anything over about 1.5 metres would be probably too big because we'd never get it filled enough to actually create the heap. Luckily, that envelope between there is the size of a typical pallet, so you can make your compost heap from pallets. Now, what you also then need to do is to capture the heap inside the heap. So here's our compost heap, and the pallets are lined with wood on the outside, a double layer of cardboard, and there's a blanket sits on top of the compost. So all those keep the heap moist and warm, and keep the heat in there that's being created. That's the first thing to do. The next thing is you've got to protect it from the British weather. You don't want it to be rained on by the ever erratic British weather as and when it's running hot, so it needs a roof on it to keep it dry and stop it getting showered in rain. The next thing is the mix. We do green brown. We put half green, half brown. Anything green goes in. In terms of brown, because it's a fast process, you need something that's going to decompose quite quickly. So we use old cardboard from previous heap linings, bits like this that get ripped up small and put into the heap. And we'll use leaf mould that is well rotted and actually at least a year old, so it'll decompose quickly. And likewise, the green mix that goes in needs to be chopped up into small pieces. I use this to keep it within about 2 inches of size. And that way you'll build up a compost heap that's fairly compact, not too many big air gaps. As you build it up, we mix the two together as we build, and we water it to keep it damp. So that gives you your heap. You also need to build it fairly quickly. You've got to get the volume and the mass there in one go to get the heat. So you've got to pick the right time to build it. So this heap here has got a bit of stuff in it, but I've actually got various piles of material around that we're sitting waiting on. And as and when the council cut the grass on the local parks or the allotment communal areas, that's when I'll build the heap and I've got a good supply of material. So you build it quickly within 4 weeks or less. What then will happen is it'll start to decompose quite quickly and the temperature will come up. And two things will go on. It'll start to drop in level, so you've got to keep putting material and keep feeding it. You could kind of think about this as a sort of teenage phase of the heap. So you've got to keep it fed. It'll also potentially get hot and bothered. All our heaps have got to 50, all of them have actually got to 70 centigrade. Now at that point you're in danger of them overheating. If they get to 75, 80, the bacterial process will potentially die and stop completely. So you've got to stop them overheating. I do that by putting, using a metal spike, putting 4 to 6 holes in the heap and putting water from a watering can down through the holes to help cool off the heap and slow it down. We typically do that 2 or 3 times to stop it overheating. After that it'll start to calm down, it'll start to cool down in temperature a bit, and when it gets down to about 45 centigrade, 40-45 centigrade, at that point I turn it into another bay, turning the old, less decomposed outside into the middle to start the whole process again. It'll go up in temperature again a bit, not to the same level, maybe 50 if you're lucky, and then after that it'll cool down again and settle down, and you've then got your compost heap maturing at a cooler temperature. This heap here, for example, was built in June, July, so this is now 5 months old. If I look at some typical stuff out of that, fairly well decomposed. There's the odd little stringy bit, but basically well decomposed compost that we were putting on at the moment in our autumn mulch. This heap here was built in September, so that's, although it looks fairly well decomposed, you can see it's quite a bit stringier, and quite a bit more woody stuff in here, but it's only 2 months old. That's got another 2 to 3 months to go. By the time we come around to using it, that'll be a lot cleaner than that, and all that stringy stuff will have broken down. Now, because of the fact we're going to use this heap for potting, we'll sieve it before we use it. So this sieve here will sit on top of a wheelbarrow. You spade your compost into it, run the spade up and down, small stuff drops out, and you've got some lovely potting compost. But we're only doing that, as I say, because it's being used for potting compost. So that's our heap system, and that's our main system. Between our compost systems, we've actually made 2.5 cubic metres of compost in the last 12 months, rolling 12 months, which I know is a lot. I do come from a family of people who are keen gardeners and composters, my mother, my grandfather, etc. Although my wife says it's really because I'm a bit obsessive with my projects, and that's why we've made so much compost. She might have a point there. I'm a bit concerned that she finds the whole project a bit degrading, really. But there we go. Anyway, so now there are other composting methods. You could choose, and you might choose something else. You could choose to do cold green-brown composting, which some people on site do, and the communal heaps on site are. It's a simpler process, but takes a lot longer. We've got somebody who's an expert and does a lot of using horse manure. We have a number of people who do green compost. They grow a green crop and dig it in the spring. And we've also got 2 heaps at the end here that are specifically for wood chip composting. Whatever you do, though, you're making yourself your own free organic peat-free compost. And if you make a metre cube of compost and you bought that from a shop, that would be 20-50 litre bags at maybe £7 a bag, so quite an outlay in cash to give yourself good crops. Another benefit that you get is the relationship with weeds. We put all our weeds onto our compost heap. So weeds, we don't have many weeds around, because as soon as they appear, you've got this added incentive to get rid of them. So you no longer get that old sort of come up to the allotment, oh my God, the weeds have taken over again, what do I do about it? Moment, because actually you keep putting onto your compost heap. So actually what's happened is they've become a crop almost. So you've actually got, rather amusingly, got a legal weed crop on your hands. Another benefit is to do with carbon capture. Plants that are obviously made largely from carbon taken out of the atmosphere. So your compost is going to be 50 to 60% humus. That humus will be 50 to 60% carbon. So you've got about 1/3 of your compost is actually carbon. And if you've got a metre cubed of compost, and that was in the atmosphere, the carbon from that was in the atmosphere, that would be about 1 tonne of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So you're absorbing carbon and putting it into the ground. Now, humus in the ground is not stable forever, but it is stable in terms of decades. So it's a really good way of helping combat global warming, as well as giving yourself great crops. Now, people do say to me, that all feels like a loss of effort though, Tim. And I kind of would say yes and no. We don't, we're using compost as an autumn mulch. We don't dig our allotment, so we don't have that effort. So that's a benefit of having a lot of the compost. Yes, we do have to chop the compost up. We do have to wheelbarrow up the leaf mould. We do have to turn the heaps. But for me, that's a bit of an upper body workout. I'd cancel my gym membership and come and get my exercise up here in the fresh air on a nice day. Would you rather do that, or would you rather be in a sweaty gym? I know where I'd rather be. So that's really it about composting. For those on flag who are watching this, our compost heat thermometer is always sitting in our bare use. You're welcome to come and borrow it. Our sieve normally sits in the shed behind me. You're welcome to come and borrow that whenever you want. Do come up and chat about composting. I'd love to hear other people's stories about what works for them, what they do. And if we're not around, you want to come and have a look around, that's absolutely fine, just come and do that. So in summary, if you get interested in and make your own compost, you've got peat-free, organic, free compost, you'll have less weeds around, you're helping absorb carbon, and you're keeping yourself exercised. So I'm hoping that's given you a whole load of positives to add to your whole allotment experience. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.